Okay, now the name of your book
Yes.
is Trapped.
Right.
Now, how long did it take you to put Trapped together?
Well, Trap is kind of like an evolutionary type of book. I'd write some novels and the fictional aspect of life, and I do my academic papers all intermixed. And it took me, about 6 months or so to really concentrate on writing the book. But the book is very important because of the fact that, as I mentioned, in primary care, which is the emphasis of medicine at this time, there is an exciting world, particularly as it relates to the inner city, of all of the various aspects of trauma, deprivations, pain, and suffering, which all kind of like connects in the primary care doctor's office. In fact, the primary care doctor's office, particularly in the inner city, has such a diversified group of people which can be in the waiting room at the same time. You may have an older lady sitting there knitting and talking about the Bible. You may have children running around playing. You may have a psychopathic killer. That's all in the same room. These people have been prisoners. You may have
people from every walk of life, but mainly minorities.
Mainly minority. It is a mosaic of minorities, particularly black.
Mosaic minorities.
Yeah, that's right. Black and Hispanics, and we have Asians. All converge at this one location. This is the United Nations.
But don't you think, Dr. Mays, it's mainly because of you? You're kind of the Dr.
Welby of the ghetto.
Welby of the ghetto.
That's right, Dr. Welby. See, Dr. Welby, during his show, interacted with 1 or 2 patients, but I interacted with about 50 or 60 patients of this mosaic of suffering, in which I'm kind of like the healer to them. And it's not all medications and drugs. It's a part of you. It's the bedside manner. It's the personality and the feeling that someone cares.
Now you're calling the novel Trapped.
Trapped, and the reason.
And where does it take place?
Well, it takes place in the inner city of any of our major inner cities of the United States, but centered in Los Angeles. And what Trapped is about is all of those different interactions that I mentioned that occurs in the waiting room of a primary care doctor's office actually takes society, brings society into this office, and the doctor interacts with those different problems. See, in the exact sciences, such as mathematics, etc., 2 + 2 = 4. But in the art of medicine, it's 2 + 2 plus something else, some environmental factor that makes the equation change. So this doctor,
but it's a fictitious doctor. It's not it's not Dr. Mays.
Oh, it's not Dr. It's Dr. Mays. It's all the doctors that do primary care in New York, Philadelphia, Chicago, whatever. And
do you have one main character?
Yes, the main character is Dr. Alonzo Bracken. And Dr. Alonzo Bracken is a typical inner city doctor who's dedicated. He's dedicated to 2 things, primarily to his family. A family who lives in a rather plush area, and kind of like spoiled kids, a beautiful wife, this type of thing, who wants to live that aristocratic life.
But he drives his Cadillac into the inner city?
Right. Dr. Bracken is a very simple person coming from the South. His wife is rather extravagant, which is typical. His children are spoiled to some extent, but it's a loving family. So his responsibility is to provide the comforts for his family, which is expected of him because of his profession, and at the same time, his desire to help the people of the inner city. There's not very much money in primary care. So the doctor has to work many, many hours in order to achieve his financial goals. And,
well, there's no money in primary care in that kind of neighborhood or situation.
Comparatively speaking. So what the doctor does...
Excuse me, they're mainly on Medicare, aren't they? Yeah, they're Medi-Cal.
Medicare and Medi-Cal, low-paying a governmental type of reimbursement. But this doctor is dedicated, and therefore he has to work harder in order to satisfy these needs, to the extent that he starts to find other ways to compensate for the lack of reimbursement. And he's a good man, believing in the Hippocratic oath,
But he starts to, now it's getting interesting.
Yeah, then he starts to deviate. People come to him, which happens to many doctors, with little methods in which you can make more money. He's in conflict.
Wheel and dealing.
We are wheeling and dealing. And it involves all the aspects of fraud that we've been reading about recently, and which he rejects initially. However, because of this need of his family and his position, he starts to relent to some extent. For instance, he may become involved in phony accidents. He may start to defraud the Medicare, Medi-Cal system. He starts to doing abortions, something that—
And he never did abortions before.
He received special training to learn how to do abortions because abortions were lucrative. Apparently, the state felt that it was cheaper to abort these inner city kids, and rather than taking care of them for the rest of their young life. So what he starts to do is those things that deviates, they're unethical and only minimally illegal, to the extent that it starts to satisfy the needs of his family until he develops greed. A good man going through a transformation like Lon Chaney becoming the wolf man. And this is so typical of inner city doctors being tempted by the apple of money, to the extent that the doctor does things that he does not ordinarily do. And this book takes the reader into the conflict going through his mind. For instance, no book has ever explored the mind of an abortionist. We think about abortion, you have the pro and the anti-abortion.
Of course, and it's a serious thing.
It's very controversial subject, but
very emotional.
Very emotional. But now this doctor has a Christian background. In fact, his father was a minister.
Thank God he's not Jewish.
Yeah, but but there are Jewish doctors that are doing the same thing.
Yeah.
But the conflict that he faces is of actually performing abortions, and no writings or any discussion has anyone ever looked into the mind of the person actually performing the abortion. What are their emotional feelings? Is there a feeling that this is just my professional job? Are there feelings of guilt? Dr. Alonzo Brackens faces this. The ultimate situation occurs with Dr. Brackens when, because of the sensationalism of fraud in medicine, that he's arrested.
Oh, I see.
And he's arrested.
But this isn't a common type of doctor, is it? What's the percentage? 2%?
Oh no, there are many doctors that don't go to the extent of being arrested, but at the same time, there are doctors that are on the edge, quite commonly, particularly in situations in which there is monitoring of the doctor's activity in federal and state programs in which they're trying to reduce the cost. And one of the political ways to do that is to find a person who's a villain. And so many doctors that do not abuse the process become victims of this type of investigation for political reasons. So this doctor, beyond the usual excursions of doctors, goes a little too far.
So he gets arrested.
He becomes arrested, but this arrest—
Where do they put him? In a holding jail, or do they put him in prison? Or
well, see, it's dramatic.
What happens?
It's dramatic because he's helped these people of the community for years and years and years. He's done some things that are kind of like unethical for their benefit. For instance, filling out forms and all these things, so make sure they get their Social Security and all these types of things. But it is timed that he's arrested in front of all of his patients.
They probably carry on like crazy.
Oh, they do react. He's arrested in front of his patients, but in front of the world, with local television, with the 20/20, 60-minute type shows that are there for a big expose of the problem. In other words, he became the marker in order to reveal the problem.
Draw attention to it.
That's right.
Trapped by Dr. James Mays. www.jamesmays.com jamesmaysmd.com.